Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Craft Eccentricity. And it's Friday. That means I'm doing my own thing with my own things. Yes. So, hauls that I've received over the past few weeks that I haven't had chance to cut out or use, that is what I'm going to be doing every single Friday. So, this week I've chosen, I'm just picking them up, to do this one, which, as you can see, has got a lovely deep emboss. It could be beach themed or flower themed, and I'm going with flowers. So I'm also using the raspberry dye that I said I was going to use last week. I'm using the very cute little bow set, and I'm going to use them both together. And I'm also using my very delicate little lavender sprigs there, which I just think are absolutely gorgeous. And then to complement what I'm up to, I'm using Panelisa's fragrant scrapbook paper pad, and I'm going with the plain, well, not plain, but just the printed sheet there, which is quite vintage. So that is what I'm using. And then to go with that, I'm using some markers. So I'm using Tombow and get the colours there: 885, 177, 603, 158, and 723. And of course, I've got a lovely tatty old water brush, and I like to use my little stamp blocks from Alina Craft. I just think they make great little palettes for squirting little drops of water and for putting bits of ink down. So we are using watercolor cardstock, and because I'm watercoloring, I need my little scruffy mat. So this is my little scruffy mat. It's just a small silicone mat there from AliExpress, and we've gone blurred. There we go. Yes, great start to the day. And that's what will keep my mess in place. So I've got my little palette there, and just to show you how organised I am, I've even got some kitchen paper. So I'm going to put that off to the side there. Right, now I have also used a circle die, and if you saw the first make, which was the boat card for KS Craft this week, you will have seen how I scored the back layer to turn it into an easel. I'm going to be doing exactly the same thing today, but we're using a circle, and I will show you how to do that. So I've already been and cut, so I've got 3 sets of the flowering leaves. I've got 2 long stalks and a short stalk for the lavender. I've cut 3 of the raspberries, and those come with the leaves. I'll pop those down. And I've cut 2 sets of the bows because I want to layer them up. So I've done that. And then for my flower wreath, which was the circle die I've just shown you, I've done that in craft cardstock, and I hope my camera's going to behave so you can get a good close-up. But that is how it cuts and embosses. Now you could get your ink blending tool and go over that if you want to, but I'm choosing just to leave it simple today, and I've already popped my foam pads on the back, and those are from Dollar Tree. I'm also going to be using Dollar Tree glue, which I keep in my little AliExpress needle tip bottle. And these are the circles that I have cut out. Now I'm picking them up and trying to separate them. Right, so this is the first sheet. This is going to be the backgrounds for my card, and that's from that Panelisa fragrance pack. And I've cut 2 sheets of the watercolor cardstock. So this is going to be glued excuse me, I've got pollen onto there, and then this is the one that will be scored and will go onto the back. So first of all, I'm just going to glue this on here, and I'll be right back. Right, so I've glued this on, so I've got a good solid base now, and the watercolor cardstock is there on the back. Now with the second circle, if you take a look here, I've scored it at 1.5 and also at 1/8 at the bottom. Now the reason for that is because you want your card to stand up straight. If you were to do what we did with the boat on a circular edge there, you're going to end up with a card that rocks backwards and forwards. You might want that, but I don't. So I'm just very carefully there taking off the eighth that I scored, and that will now hopefully stand up. We will soon find out. Right, so I've done that. This needs to be glued onto the back. I'm just going to move a few things so that you can see. I'm going to do it upside down so that that bit is like in the area. Just push those out of the way, and I can see which way round my card is. I want the print to be straight. So for this piece here now, I'm just turning that over. All the glue is going to be applied in front of the score line. So here we go. So it's the largest area that's going to be getting all of that glue. And what you can do, if you're worried about any squeezing out and spoiling it, I'm just capping off my glue bottle here. You can just bend it forward on that score line before you glue it down. So just give it a little tease so that it's sticking up in the air. Now we just need to get that on nice and straight, and I want to make sure that it's compatible with my pattern as I turn it over, and I think that it is because it's got type on there. I want the type to be straight, so I think that's it, and that looks reasonably even. So I can just push that there now, and I can push that bit out of the way. So that this is what my circle now looks like. My camera's playing up, so I do apologise. But there we go. We have glued all in this area and left this area alone, and we've got that little bit cropped off there. Now I do need to let that dry for a couple of minutes, so what I'll do is I'll pause and I'll come right back. Right, so that's all dry, and I'm just standing up here so that I can get my wreath bit on. I've taken the backs off, so I'm just trying to get it evenly in there. So there is my wreath ready to build everything on it. So the base is done, and I'm pretty sure that that's reasonably dry now. So let's see how that will stand up. There you go, it stands. So as long as you can get it to stand, that's all that matters, and that is what that looks like. So it's just really easy to just double up and make an easel if you need one. Right, so now we've got to do some colouring, so I'm just going to move the base for a while, and I'm going to do the raspberries first. So I'm going to bring those in. I've got my bows there. I'll move my bows because I need that little thing. And I'm using red basically for the raspberries, so nothing particularly fussy going on here at all. Just trying to do it as easy as possible. Natural, yeah. So first of all, I'm going to squeeze a blob of water, and I'm just going to prime everything. So of course, when you're using watercolour, you are supposed to wet your card. You don't have to. You get a more solid colour if you don't do it. But it just helps the flow of the paint if you've got a damp surface. Right, so we're primed, and I'm using the same block to scrub off some of the red. So I'm putting some red down on there, and then I'm just going to pick it up with my wet brush and see what happens. Now there are little bits at the back of it, which of course you get those, I I don't know what part of the raspberry that is. Those little green stalky bits that stick out at the back. Of course, as you go through your watercolor, you start to dilute it, so it will become paler and paler. But it's okay because you can always go in and add extra. And now we're getting really, really pale now. If you look at that one to that one. So I'm just going to scrub some more red on the block and just pick that up and come over here. Right, because we've got the clock and the time is always running, so I'm just dabbling that bit up and down. So I'm quite happy with those for my raspberries because I'm really just going for a very quick and very naturalistic look. So I'm just going to clean my brush. I'm going to do the stalks green, and then let's come back and colour the bows. So anyway, I figured while I've still got the green on my block, I'm going to do this one just to show you. So I'm just picking up some of the green, and then I'll go off and do those other two, but you can see how I've done the first one. Might need to put a little bit more green down there. And that's looking rather pale, and it is a very dark green, but I did prime it with water. So I'm just scrubbing some colour down on there. You can use these brushes straight as and just go straight on if you want to, but sometimes it can just be quite nice to build up colour. Now you'll notice I'm leaving the flowers white because they are white. So all they're going to need is a touch of yellow into the centre. And I think it could be that this green is going to need a second coat when it's a little bit drier, just to darken it up so that it's tying in there with the raspberries. So I think what I'm going to do is just clear that bit of water off the block because that's not helping. And just scrub some more green out. You can get little colour mats for your tombos, but you know, I've just never bothered. I just use my my little stamping block, and I'm quite happy with that. So I'm just tickling the colour and making it darker. I want to darken this up, but I also want to darken that bit. So I'm going to go with that. I shall go with that and be happy. And I'm just going to clean that bit of green off just so I can show you the yellow. And I'm going more of an orangey colour actually. So if I squeeze that out, because you always want to know, sometimes colour can suck up inside your water brush and turn your other colours to mud. So I'm going into the flower neat and just in the centre. There's tiny little dots there, and you can just touch those little dots so that you've got little yellow centres. But then if you want them to look a little more pale, just go in with your water brush and just move that colour around, and they will dry a little paler like that. Right, I'm going to do exactly the same thing to the other two, and I'll be right back. Okay, so those are all done, and now I'm going in with my pink for my bows, and I'm just going straight to the cardstock for this. If I want to add any water, I will do. just to push that colour around afterwards. And I think I probably will. So it's just the top layer bows that I'm doing. I'm gluing them directly on top of the white ones. And as I'm always saying, always do your colouring first before you glue. Otherwise your glue will act like a resist, and areas where you may want to get your paint won't go down because any leakage of glue is going to prevent it. So I'm going to do my other bow exactly the same, and I will be right back. Right, so I've done my bows and they are ready just to glue straight on top of the white ones. So next is the lavender, and that is the paler green and hopefully a lavender colour that I've got here. And I'm just going to go straight down on top of these. They're so delicate really that, you know, any watercolouring isn't necessary. Just the brush on its own is fine. So I'm also going to do the leaves. Just going to hold that down in exactly the same way. Those two larger ones that you can see there, I'm now going to colour those in exactly the same way that I just did that one, and I'll be back. Right, so I've done that and I also tidied up a bit, and this is what I want to do with my bows. I want to kind of lay one over the other so it's like sticking out a bit. But to do that, I need to kind of like hold it where I want it, which is there, grab a pair of scissors, and I'm going to snip the tails off. So I'm going to go there. Whoops. And I'm going to go there. So I've quite literally chopped its little tails off because I need it to fit in with the size of the cards that we're doing. So I know that I want them there because I can see all the little bits hanging out. So I'm just going to push that up out of the way and just put a little squeeze of glue in there and hold it together. I'll come back when that's dry. Right, so I've put the card base down here and you can see that the bow actually fits within it. But before I fix the bow down, I want my lavender, so I'm sliding it off the table because I've got no nails, to fit into this region here. And I will of course be trimming the stalks off. So I'm pretty sure that I kind of want my lavender to go there, and then of course the bow is going to be the thing that holds that little piece into position. So what I'm going to do is, while the lavender is there, I'm going to spread it out again where I want it, and then I'm going to hold that with my finger. I've got my glue and I'm going underneath onto the wreath and pushing that down. So I'll be right back when it's dry. Right, that's dry, and as you can see it's hanging off the bottom, but that's fine because we're going to trim that off in a minute. So I've got my lavender there, and the next thing that I want to do is pop the foliage in. So I'm going to start at the top, and you can see that I did not glue the lavender down at the top because I just want it floating freely, and I also want to be able to tuck stuff in. So just quite literally going around here, and yeah, I think that's about right for me, because when I get the bow on and raspberries in there, it's going to kind of fill that space up. So exactly as you see that, that's how I'm going to glue it. And I'll glue it the same way as my lavender, just by holding my finger on there and popping the glue underneath. I'll be right back. Okay, so those are glued down on there, and the next thing that I want to do before I put the raspberries on is put the bow on, and I'm only putting glue in this section here. Now, if you look, I haven't glued these down. These are floating freely. And that's because I want to be able to tuck my bow underneath those raspberry flowers. So remember to stay within the confines of your card. And that needs to go up, because when you stand your card up, you don't want it hitting the bow. So I'm just feeling that with my fingers, and I think that's okay. Right, I'm just going to hold that down for a minute and I'll be right back. Right, I think that's sufficiently dry, and the next thing I want to do before the raspberries go on is cut off those long lavender stalks that you can see there. So just in case everything isn't correctly dry yet, I'm just going to hold that bit there with my finger while I look at the arrangement here and snip those stalks out. Right, get that off there. And I have actually got a couple of nice little sprigs here. I mean, you know, if you wanted to tuck them in anywhere else, you absolutely could. But this is where we're at the moment, and I hope my camera is going to behave. There you go. So you've got your little watercolour splash bow, and you've got your lavender in the middle, and you've got your raspberry flowers and leaves going around the edges. And now I've got 3 raspberries that I cut. So where am I going to put those? So there are bits of leaves that I didn't glue down so that I can actually tuck stuff in if I want to. I mean, you just need to find the home for everything. Your little bit of flower arranging, and it could be, you know, that you've got raspberries coming up in the centre. Now, I quite like that, so I'm going to glue that exactly as you see it, and I'll be right back. So anyway, I did that, and I decided not to waste those lavender sprigs. So I stuck one down there and one down there, because a little bit of extra green is always nice. So that's what we did. We just watercolored that lovely little naturalistic card. Looking at it from the side there, you've got your easel. Let's see if it's going to stand up. Yes, it does. I just wish, you know, the angle of my camera was so that you could see it from the front, but it works. So it's a great way to make a stand-up card just by cutting a little bit of extra something. But that's what I've got for you today. And I hope you have an absolutely awesome weekend. And I am up on Monday with an Alina Craft Design Team haul, and then on the Tuesday doing projects from that haul. So you have an absolutely fabulous weekend. I do thank you so much for watching, and as usual, all links below. Bye.